And once you start like studying, different environments and thumbnails and, just making really quick color sketches of these environments and these different lighting setups, you kind of start to have a good guess about how it would transfer, what colors you use. There's one that I'm going to show in a little bit, and it's like I Googled an image and then I just took a glance at it and I'm like, okay, I can roughly adapt that, but I'm not, worrying too much. It just has to have the feeling, evoking it in a way. So yeah, I'm just going back and playing around with, painting on top and rendering now a little bit, but super loose. And it's not quite done. I stopped recording and then I went back and finished it up, and we'll get into that in a moment here. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video section of that. And I will get into the PSD. So I couldn't help myself. I thought, okay, this is a good step by step, but just to really bring it home of start a neutral, and yeah, it gives you options and flexibility, really. So we've got the painting that we started with, or just finished with, sorry, and just what I've been saying as well. Local colors inherent to the material without lighting applied, shape design and soft and hard edges, that all still applies in local color. Like I think it's really good to be able to separate that. When we're looking at references, we need to separate what is what's values and color from the lighting and what's inherent to these materials. So we're starting from a neutral setup, and it allows us to adjust for more flexibility. Like I said, this is really good for showing off the design. It's the design, and we can add a little bit of like flavor to it, set dressing, whatever, but and a little bit more color and stuff like that. But these are kind of extreme, right? You wouldn't necessarily have these to show off a character concept necessarily, but yeah. So by doing a shadow pass here, we are redefining what the main light source is. The lighting setup from before is still in use, but now as ambient light in the shadow. And yeah, similar thing here. I kind of just Googled like jungle at dusk, I think, and got the general vibe. I very simply blocked in. This isn't an illustration section or anything like that, but just generally blocking in. And I can kind of go through here a little bit of what I was doing. Yeah, so similar from before. I'm using a hard light layer here. So I just picked, kind of put in some gradients, normal paint, normal, and then just put in this like wash of orange. And yeah, I like just over years and years, again, you pick up what each like layer mode kind of does. It's not like they're very flexible, right? Like hard light you can use in a bunch of different contexts. And it depends on the color that you pick, and you can kind of end up predicting the outcome of what it's going to appear like on the canvas and like what it actually does. So that is kind of a just over time you get a sense of those tools. So I can go through it. So multiply, I really pumped up the vivid light here, and that's what it looks like on normal. And then I mean vivid light, like this kind of pinkish, like at dusk, like you get all those pink hues, and I really wanted to like pump that up a little bit. And this is a cool thing I was playing around with, where you can like lighten. Lighten mode is pretty cool. So basically this idea that so we want to get a bloom effect over here. These values are quite dark still, right? But we can grab a slightly like lighter value, and wash it out. But that's probably too light. Let's grab a lighter value. Oh, oh no, it's still normal, sorry, lighten. Yeah, so it adds this sort of like a bloom effect. So it blows out the darker values slightly. But yeah, you can like get familiar with those layer types as well. But that's what I was doing there. What else? Yeah, darkening the whole thing. Just started to like block in a little background and, you know, but very, very rough. But yeah, just thought here I'm thinking about the direction of the light mostly as well. And I wanted this to be kind of backlit. But yeah, so this is the kind of the local color Tiger section of the demo. And I just wanted to start off, oh, spoilers. I just wanted to start off just with some painting because yeah, like I said, I felt like last time it was a little bit like, here's a bunch of how I feel about art, and that's cool as well. But you know, we're getting going now. So yeah, here's the docket. So having a process, I've got some notes actually. Hold on, I'm going to try and don't know if I need them, mate. We'll see. So today we're gonna make studies basically for the rest of the week. They're going to be portrait studies. There's no big shocker there, I don't think. But we're going to focus on simplifying down the information that we're seeing in the references, and later we can push these to become more imaginative and toward the style that we're aiming for. It helps to have a decent understanding of a subject before you simplify and exaggerate. This is what we kind of got into before, where we were, you know, you need to understand the rules to break them. You know, you need to do more of the drier, more academic style studies a little bit, just to understand form and all this kind of thing. It helps. It informs the way you can stylize it and kind of maintain, you know, proportion and all these things, and yeah, form and all that. So I'm going to show you how I kind of break down the information and reapply it with my process. And I was just looking at this cat earlier. It's from a little while ago, but I quite like how I simplified things. And I started to, like the window, for example, in the background, right? I kind of just took plainly, what am I seeing? I'm seeing dark square, dark squares, a light circle, a light circle, and then a gradient, and just this gradient here. And I've just put in a little gradient, and it's very, you know, it's simple. But if we think in this kind of way of like, oh, what I'm actually seeing, it's just there's a hard edge here. There's you know, soft gradient here. Like that's the kind of thing where we need to just even say out loud, maybe not out loud, just in your head, just say, okay, what am I actually observing? And this shape here as well in the background, trying to depict that. But it also, I have conflicting ideals about this, right? Because when you get into really academic drawing, it's they say, you know, instead of painting an eye, you're painting these shapes and that kind of thing, which is true. You're painting color shapes, and you want to separate your idea of what an eye is. But then when you simplify, I think having a little bit of like bringing back the idea of an eye, it needs to be readable as an eye, or readable as a cat. It needs to have those signature characteristics of that thing when you're stylizing something. I think that's really important. That's really cool. And that's that kind of, we're riding the line there between, between the representative kind of color shape aspect of things, and then the catness of the image, I guess, if that makes sense. So, okay, my process. We're going to talk about my process so much, you guys are going to get sick of it. But I think it's good. So it remains largely the same between reference paintings and imaginative work, right? As I'm doing a study, I'm breaking down the information, I'm recreating it in this style. And then when I'm doing it from imagination, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm visualizing. I have an idea in my head of what I want to paint, And if it's, like I said, if it's really complicated, then I'll do a little sketch and it's really loose. And then I can make a more refined version using this process and keep painting that. But it's largely the same thing, because all I'm doing is stacking decisions on top of each other, which is, it's cool. It gives me that confidence that I can just, I'll have a go at painting anything, right? And I think a lot of times when we don't have a process, we're kind of just like floundering a little bit, or, you know, so yeah, the painting has its own internal logic. And what I mean by internal logic, I think my man Nicholas Uribe said this once, the painting is a painting. I don't know if that's a misquote, but I think he's hitting on something where it's like, if you're looking at reference, you're not a slave to the reference. It's just giving you clues. It's giving you information that you need to pass and reinterpret, right? And then the painting has its own rules that you're making up, which is cool. It's really cool. So this internal logic here, this is how the lighting works in my painting, and it has a pretty consistent logic there. I'm not kind of taking one section that's hyper detailed and one section is, it has its own consistency within the painting and its own logic about kind of how it works. But we want to still be informed, which is, yeah. So process, it might not click with you. I've had a student before that just didn't get on with it, and it's didn't work out. It wasn't for them, and that's totally fine. I just feel like I'm going to share this with you. It works for me, and hopefully you get something out of it about kind of organizing information and the importance of a process. But yeah, if you find that you prefer working like in values in the beginning, like I did that a lot. I can show a couple of those as well, where I start in values and then I wash in kind of colors with like different color layers and stuff, and that's perfectly fine. But this is how I'm working at the moment. So yeah, like I've been saying, it's not strict. It's good as a starting point. And yeah, and it's adaptable and reactive to the painting. So when I say adaptable and reactive, what do I mean there? It means that, okay, I have a mental image in my head. When I'm starting a painting, I'm looking at the reference. I'm thinking like, oh, this bit's really cool. I imagine what the painting will look like when it's done, right? That's kind of my goal. But as I'm painting, stuff happens, and maybe there's a cooler thing that happens by mistake, and then I follow that instead, and I want to push on this certain aspect. And I actually forgot to one sec. Yeah, it's reactive to the painting. It's not this stiff set thing. I can flatten, merge, warp, all that kind of stuff. Like I love doing that as well. But this just gives you a good footing and like good forward momentum. So before I get like, I forgot to show, this is what the actual final kind of painting looks like. And yeah, so we started here, and like I said, it's a good base, but I wasn't really happy with it in certain ways. I was saying like, okay, I'm exaggerating the shape a little bit, but it could be more exaggerated, could be a little bit punchier. So, and this tail was kind of just annoying me. It was like timid. I don't know, it wasn't doing much. So I wanted it to like, I warped it, chopped it up. And then I gave him this like hunch, that's that expression that I wanted to capture originally when I was making that. So I copy and pasted, selected, pasted it up. And then I was just started playing around with like a little bit of a background, and there's kind of like, I don't know, getting a little bit comic-y, which I think is cool. I was like, oh, okay, this is getting somewhere. It gives a little bit of like depth to the image. And then I, paint it up a little bit, do some lines, expressive lines. I refine a little bit, and then bam, hit you with that. He's looking at the camera now, right? He's not just kind of vacantly staring off. He's giving you the side eye because he's a dangerous tiger. And yeah, what else? So, and that I did that trick as well, where I kind of like did the lighten thing. So this is like, oh, this bit is bleeding into the background, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's kind of a mistake that I fumbled into, but I think it works. And then just some color adjustment kind of things. And I could render it more, you know, but I like to get it out and then just move on to the next thing. So yeah, damn it, sorry. So anyway, adaptable and reactive. That's what I was saying. Adaptable and reactive. I didn't just say, oh, I've finished my process now. I assessed what I was painting, and then I changed it up still, right? So again, I feel very strongly about this. A process helps me not get overwhelmed or lost in a painting. I'm very rarely repainting the same area over and over again, and it helps me give a sense of forward momentum. So I used to do this all the time, and there was one of the images that I showed last week where it was the snake head guy. I was streaming it actually, and an artist, left for an hour, and then they came back and said, "Oh, it doesn't look like you've changed anything. It looks the same." And it was an hour of me painting. So I was like, something's up, guys. Like this is that cut me deep. So I was like, right. After that, I just, for some reason, it got into me. And you don't need to get hung up on it. You know, it takes as long as it takes, but basically just the sense of I'm moving forward with the painting. Every stroke that I'm making is pushing it towards a final, right? I'm not just noodling away, right? So that's helped me. And having a process, it might sound uncreative, but in each step of the way, you're making artistic choices. Of course, you know, this the shape of the hammerhead, the perspective, and all that kind of thing. It's slightly exaggerated. I'm making an artistic choice there. How much I'm simplifying, the shapes that I'm drawing, the colors, and the way I'm describing form. All of these are it's artistic choices, and it's having a process doesn't mean you're not creative, right? It just means that these things are going to happen anyway. They're just happening in a more organized manner, which is good because we all have limited time, and I want to make a lot of paintings, and I don't want to just, you know, get lost and you know. So this is my process. I'm gonna have some examples. I'm gonna go through some examples. Okay, so give me a moment. I think this will be cool. I think this will be good. Oh, it's loading. Okay, I'm gonna use this guy as an example of like to kind of like step through. I need to find the drawing layer first. I'm sorry, I should have prepared. Okay, hold on. I had it somewhere. Okay, where are you? No. Very organized, right? I was just talking about organization, and then I'm like, oh, where's the drawing? It's here somewhere. Oh God, embarrassing. Bear with me. Okay, here it is. We got him. I'm gonna make that green so I know. Okay. Cool. Right. So where am I? For some reason, his nostrils. He had a nostril at some point. One of his nostrils. So we're gonna. You'll see this a lot, but it's fine. Look at the reference. Consider intent. Conjure up a mental image of what your painting will look like. Like I told you that intent is so important when you're starting a painting. You're not just jumping in and just being like, you need a kind of a goal. You need to visualize a little bit. And as you develop as an artist, you're going to be able to visualize easier, and turn the whole apple thing, like I'm rotating apples all day, like I've got loads, and it's yeah, you strengthen your kind of conjuring your mental image before, right? So look at the reference, think about what you want to take from it, what's important, a characteristic that stands out to you. I really like the angle in his cheek and how it kind of goes down into his chin, and these big round glasses. I really wanted to like maintain that. So yeah, I'm thinking about the overall proportion and the overall shape. And then we're going to go in and ignore that part for now. We are going to go in, and I should have organized this a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, these are like block out. He's got some other bits up here. Anyway, you get the idea. So yeah, local color block out. I'm separating each element into its local color. We just talked about local color, so that's like really, that's just so appropriate, to talk about. And then yeah, separating them, they'll each have their own kind of value range in the end as well, so it helps to separate those things out, right? The lights on the hair aren't as bright as his skin, and not as bright as his hat, and so forth, right? So has a different material quality and has a different local value. So going to try and go through, and then I've added some like variation as well into his skin tone, so I'm getting a little bit more subtle, like I was saying. And I think there is one layer. Yes, God, found it. So ambient occlusion, darkest darks. This is where no light is reaching, right? In the crevice of his mouth, I don't need to do lighting passes and all that stuff on there. In his nostrils, it's just black. It's fine. And same with his eyes, right? The way I tend to simplify eyes sometimes is that I will make it kind of one shape. So it's the iris, and then the upper lid, and that's just a simplified thing that you can do. And generally, the eyes are pretty dark. I can add in details at the end, if I want to put color in their eye, that's fine. But yeah, so now, excuse me, give me a moment. I'm just gonna be putting on layers, and again, should have organized this more. It's been hectic. Yes. So it's starting to come alive a bit. So I love this area of the painting. This is like, I was like, when I did that, I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. And that's like really simple, like brushwork, but very deliberate and effective. Like I'm not kind of repainting the same area over and over again, right? It's just in one like kind of solid, I've got that variation from the different brushes that I'm using, that soft brush and that hard brush, right? But I'm doing it all in like kind of one shape, which is nice. So again, observing the reference. This is just trying to simplify this form down a little bit as well, because it gets a little bit complex in the reference, and I'm just like, I don't want to do all that. So I'm simplifying it down. I'm getting that there's a kind of a crease here, hard edge here that I'm seeing, and then it got a softer roll, right? A little bit of a softer roll here, and that's what I'm describing in the painting. So again, what color is it's pretty gray actually, pretty neutral. That's fine. Shadow pass, thinking about the direction of the light, thinking about the direction of the light and how it affects the form, through just, again, a lot of studying. I've built up an understanding of form, and it's just something that you kind of need to practice, but you can observe these like clues. So you see here the shadows being cast this way, and the lights hitting his head here. The strongest point is in this top corner, so I imagine the light is coming from down here, right? We're taking these like visual cues. And then I do another pass, and you can stop or not, depending on the style that you want to go for. I think I'm just adding some details here. That's a bit later on. Bear with me one moment. Yeah, I think I'll turn like most of the layers on and then work backwards now. So yeah, it's it's organized in the method, but not in the layers, because I'm just making a new layer, and so yeah, here, this is such a, I think I just did this in one layer, right? Because it's just a light with a bit of a gradient on the edge, right? I don't need to do everything. It's so simple that I don't need to do it. But then I paint in it like directly a little bit, right? So it's not just a set thing. Like I said, I am just painting directly on top of things as well. Overlay layer, like that to boost the light. And I did that with a really soft gradient because I wanted to maintain that separation of light and dark. And this brushwork, it's efficient and it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, so I don't need to over describe with loads of little marks of the light and that kind of thing. And then yeah, I'm pushing the color and the vibrancy with like hard light layers, things like that, and these kind of washes. And again, I'm kind of, I don't think I didn't do the select color range thing here. I just directly, this is just a normal layout where I took a lighter value and I painted that in directly because I wanted some certain shapes that I didn't establish beforehand, if that makes sense, right? I wanted it to cut in up here. So yeah, painting in, adding a little bit of character, these like little marks here. And then that's pretty much it. I get questions about like the brushwork and that kind of thing, but hopefully you'll see the pattern emerge that like it just takes like strong values, strong foundation of an image, and then then you get to do the satisfying little flourishes, right? You get to do these little like that kind of stuff, right? But you can't build a whole image on that. It's just kind of, they're little marks and flourishes, and they're fun, but they sit on top of an established, like well-built painting, by adhering to all these steps. So I wouldn't worry too much or get caught up too much in that kind of thing. But certain people, they want a certain look as well, and that is definitely a part of it. So yeah, that's one of these examples of just going. This is my process. Hopefully that's tracking. I'm going to show you another one. I'll just go through this quickly. And these are some apes. I really like how these turn out, and they've got a drawing. See, I've got the drawing layer on its own thing ahead of time, like a pro. So this is basically same deal, different intent. This isn't a direct study; it's more of an illustration, I guess. And I took some reference. I took some references from the Japanese macaque, and I think it was just one or two photos, and I just started to design the shapes you know, and I wanted them all to kind of fit together. So I'd draw one, and then, okay, like this guy can come around here, and you know, I wanted them all to kind of fit nicely and be very pushed and stylized. So this is fairly like I said, a simplified version of what we just did, but has a different impact, a different intent. It's simple is good. It's eye catching. I'm not over describing the form here, so but very similar process. I'm blocking out these shapes. I think I treat the block out phase as a refinement of my drawing, because we're not gonna see the drawing in the final, most likely. Just the way I like to my finish, I like to lose the drawing eventually, right? But it's given me the foundation of it, and then this is, people actually see this. They'll see these edges, right? How clean this is. So I do take a lot of time to, you know, be precise in like how I want them to all kind of flow together and all that stuff. I'm not just haphazardly, you know, it's quite purposeful, and I do take a lot of time. Someone asked me about lasso tool as well, and for some reason I've just gotten used to actually manually drawing out the shape, and I can erase and redraw it, right? So that's cool. But so where was I? Color wash, again, looking at the reference, really pink, like vibrant. This is just on a normal layer, and then hard light layer. This is what I used for the shadow pass, but we're getting really graphic already, but there's a lot of like the forms going on. So the light source is top down, but it's sort of adhering to some light, but yeah, top down, casting a shadow on his brow, like shadow in his mouth, all these kind of things. And that's my first initial pass. And then again, I do another pass where just adding in some of those mid-tones, turning the forms a little bit more, adding a little bit more of a gradation between the light and the dark. It's not, you know, this could have gone this way, but I wanted to add a little bit more of complexity. My darkest darks, like we said, kind of, you know, eyes and mouth and nostril here. Pushing on the lights a little bit. See that? Very subtle. The important thing here that I'm thinking about, I want to maintain that graphic read, right? For this, it's very important to maintain a graphic read. So I'm not going too crazy on, you know, these aren't going to white, you know, because we've got the white in the image, right? We need to maintain that graphic flatness in a way, but at the same time we want to give it that depth. And playing around with some brush strokes, very subtle difference, but there is a difference here. It adds a little bit of like tooth and a little bit of you know, it's not completely, I'm kind of just messing up the edges a little bit and giving them a little bit of hair and stuff like that, but still really focused on maintaining that shape. I'm not getting too far away from it at all. And then playing around with some eyes, and minor adjustments and highlights. And I think I had, yeah, I don't know if I kept this layer on in the final or not, but yeah, maybe I did. But yeah, I had a little bit of this like side lighting, I guess, but very, I'm being very deliberate about the shapes here, very graphic with the shapes still. They're not just blocked in roughly. I'm trying to respect the form, but also have this like satisfying kind of graphic shape. So yeah, that's just another example of like same process, different you know, different outcome, but had a different intent, right? But I'm using that same method, and it is better at some things than others, but this is just, yeah, what suits me, and I think people can get something from it. And yeah, I'm gonna take a quick break. We've already been an hour. I think we're making good progress. But yeah, just gonna take 10-15 minutes. I will share the PSD, Vitor. But yeah, hopefully that will make sense. We can, I think maybe we can have a few questions, or yeah, no, let's take a break first. Put questions in the chat. I'll come back and maybe address some questions, but I do want to keep making progress. But yeah, cool. I'll leave this up here. Yeah, back in 10 or 15. Nice.